that we're most interested in doing business with, and without naming any one name, are the the business process integrators. So any of the folks out there who are doing large-scale mashups, if you will, would be very important for us to pursue over time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to follow Brent's lead and kind of on the same train of thought. Anyone who's willing to provide termination, voice termination for free to us would be definitely a nice partner to have. So, I mean, if the cost of telephony were to go away and termination fees would go away, I mean, there would be so much room for innovation and so much more people could do. That's really the Achilles heel for a lot of these startups that are doing really cool voice stuff. So.
Yeah, but I'll stop it there for a second. I know I'm breaking this, but so email is for free and it's broken. If phone calls are for free, won't they break too?
I think the breaking, that's a quality of service issue. So, and email is broken. I mean,
to say, listen, if I'm sitting in India and I can make money and I can make $2 today by getting someone to answer the phone, I'll send out 10 million. They don't cost anything. This phone call might come as a surprise to you, but I have a large amount of money in a bank. So tell me this: would it be better for have like a subsidized model, where and I'm not a big fan of some of the things I've seen, but could that be the way it goes? Where instead of it's free, because it's subsidized by something else.
Yeah, I think you will see a lot of innovation there, where companies like Jaxtr will figure out ways to bring down the cost to the end user to make calls by providing value-added services and maybe using part of our user base to subsidize the other part of the user base.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
First, to speak to your point, I think email is broken because of the large amount of spam in the network. And therefore, when I send an email to an associate, I don't know if it's going to get through. It may end up in their spam folder. Because telephony is a more trusted communication channel today, good old-fashioned voice, there are interesting opportunities for all of us to use voice for notification of critical information where we no longer can trust email. But that's an aside. I'm looking to stay on the same track here. I'm looking for a telco provider that can provision a toll-free number in less than days so that I don't have to inventory so many toll-free numbers.
Rod, where are you?
Okay.
Good. All right, thank you. Now, please, I'm not the easiest guy to have as your moderator because sometimes I ask hard questions, but that doesn't mean that you can't ask hard questions too. Do you have any questions you want to ask the audience before we dismiss them? Yes.
Having been on the ISP side and also on the carrier side, I love the idea of getting it for free. The problem is the reason email is broken is because you can get some of the stuff that's free. Right. What's to say that as soon as the carriers open up their network to give you free access, that because, as was said in the other session earlier, that the developers just want to try and test it? What's to say that you're not going to end up having some version of spam on the network along with your application?
Mm-hmm. So anyone want to take that?
Yeah. You do already. It's called SPIT, is the acronym for spam sent over telephony. And it speaks to the issue of valid caller ID, the type of access to consumers who you shouldn't be accessing because they're on the do not call list, et cetera. I think that those of us in telephony, or in, let's say, the alternate telephone channel that's developing, are all highly sensitive to these issues because of the problems that have occurred in email. And so I think there is clearly an opportunity for us to work together as an industry to ensure the same thing doesn't happen, number one. Number two, the whole concept in telephony of a border controller or some separation between critical network infrastructure and the end developer is something that I think, at least at Ifbyphone, we're doing in our API world. So as an example, because we recognize the possibility of abuse, We have systems that monitor developer use and even paying customer use of resources very, very critically. And I know that many of the organizations we partner with do the same thing because we recognize that a rogue developer could jeopardize the overall network. So I think since telephony is coming from a different world, from a 5 nines kind of mentality, we have a better chance of keeping this under control.
So, Brent, you got something quick? Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, part of the things that we do when you're subscribing to these types of enterprise events, we allow the users to set up preferences. So what they can do is do cascade. So if I don't respond immediately over email and IM, then wait 5 minutes, then send me a text. Then if I still don't respond after 10 minutes, then move to a more intrusive channel like voice. So
Right, very
just
cool.
thought I'd throw that out.
Pankaj, you got a question?
Yeah, I just had a question. So 3 out of the 4 panelists said that we'd like carriers to give us something for free.
I'm willing to pay for my toll-free numbers. I just want them in less than 2 weeks.
I'm not going to be invited back.
I guess my question is, what steps are you taking to approach carriers or approach other bodies that can act as facilitators in the conversation, if you will, to make some of these things easily available to third-party service providers like this one? And are the carriers doing enough to come back to you or approach you?
I think some of the steps we are taking at jaxtr is along the same conversation we just had about the quality and basically the reputation of the service, and building a system whereby if we do have access to those free minutes, we can use them wisely. So that's what we are building. We have built a lot of privacy rules, network control, spam detection, all that stuff inside of our network. And also gaining critical volume. I mean, if a service doesn't have enough volume to be interesting to a carrier, it would be premature to talk to carriers. But we think, slowly we are reaching a point where our volume could be very interesting, and then we should be opening those conversations.
I'll add one thing to that. I was working with a large carrier a few weeks ago on their go-to-market business models around APIs into their network, and one of the ideas that was floated around. I won't say who did it, but it was like, you know what, maybe you should charge more for your API calls. Don't charge less, charge more. And the reason for that is twofold. First of all, it really drives the traffic for the commoditization stuff away, because they won't go there because it costs too much. But for the companies that really are looking to save money in business process and save 30 hours on a purchase order, or have a response rate which is 3 times what the typical one is, they're not going to care so much about the click costs. They care about how much they're saving. And so maybe one of the answers is, hey carriers, why don't you charge more for this? And then in some ways make it more valuable, such as, you carrier guys are going to hate me, but whatever. Maybe what you can do is keep the data that you can give back to the person who owns the API, because it would be pretty valuable to me as a person to know where I've been, where did I go, what calls did I make. Maybe I don't expose this to the rest of the world, maybe just to me. That data is very valuable. My social network is my CDR. That's my social network. My mom doesn't have an email address. She doesn't have she's never going to have a Facebook account, right? But I call her, right? And I think that's true for all of us. And it gives us little willies because we're all about privacy. I get that. But the facts don't change. Any other questions before I let my poor people go? I feel so sorry for them. Anything else? Good. Well, please give them a hand. Thank you very much for showing up.